is Mr. Aguilar, your art teacher. Welcome to this video. So right now we're going to be working on a tutorial for shading with art pencils. We're going to be using 5 different art pencils. We're going to go from 4H to 2H, HB, 2B, and 4B. If you've never used art pencils before, think of a number line in math where you have 0, and then when you move to the left, you go to the negatives, and when you move to the right, you go to the positives. So your HB would be your 0, or your number 2 pencil, the yellow pencil you have in class. As you go to the left, you're going to get your 2H, your 4H, your 6H. The higher the H's, the harder the pencil, which equals a lighter value. So as that number goes up, the values are going to get lighter and lighter. The opposite is true for going to the right, where you have your B, 2B, 4B, 6B, 9B, 12B. The farther you move to the right, or the higher the number of the B, the softer the lead's going to be. And that means you're going to have a much, much darker value. The problem is, the higher you go into the B sections, the more rough your pencil mark's going to be. It's not going to be smooth. Whereas you go to the hard pencils, you're going to have very smooth transitions with your values. So we're going to talk about layering and how to use multiple pencils to create nice flat values that have very nice transitions from light to dark. One thing to keep in mind, when you're doing these swatches, you want to keep your hand grip the same on all pencils. So if your first round, you're going to go back third, make sure all your pencils are back third. Then on the second round, I went middle grip, so I want to make sure I'm using a middle grip on all of the pencils. By keeping your grips the same, you're going to get a true estimate of the change in values. So it's really, really important, and that's what I'm going over right now, is the different hand grips. So when we look at this, we have our back grip, which is our underhand grip. We have our back third, which is also an underhand grip. You have your middle, which is going to go into your palm, and you use your index finger to control your pressure. Then you have middle overhand, bottom third or front third overhand, and then bottom of the pencil or very front of the pencil overhand. So these each create different values because you're adding different types of pressure to the pencil. So the farther you move down, the darker your value is going to get. Now with the gradients, and that is a transition from light to dark or dark to light, what we want to do is we always want to start with our lightest value that we can make with the pencil, which would be the back end. And then we work all the way down. Now, every time we move down on the pencil, we're going to stop short, meaning we're not going to go as far down. So every time I come down on the pencil, I'm going to move down less and less. And that's how we get our nice smooth gradients from dark to light. The other thing to keep in mind is you want to build your values. So you're going to be going over this 4, 5, 6 times. Each time you go over it, it's going to get smoother and smoother. And what you're really doing is focusing on blending and getting a smooth transition. One thing we don't allow is any type of smudging. So no smudging with your fingers, no smudging with tissue paper. If you do that, you smudge the whole thing, it's going to get thrown in the trash. You're going to have to restart it. If you smudge 1 or 2 things, you're going to get point deductions for everything you smudge. So this is about learning control. This is about learning how to use the different pencils. And this is about learning how to shade. So you need to meet those standards and expectations to get your grade. One thing to understand, again, the more graphite or more pencil you put down, the more they push each other around, and the smoother and smoother they get. So you're never going to get your best shading or rendering by trying to go over something just one time. And we're going to talk about how to build up your values and how to use multiple pencils to create that really smooth transition from light to dark and to have accurate values. So again, watching the video. This video is sped up 4 times the speed, so you're not sitting here watching this for 45 minutes. But you'll see me point to where I'm gripping, and I'm just trying to illustrate, this is the grip that you need to create a certain value. Now I have my darker value, so you can see I'm here on the lower third of the pencil, and then as I need to go to my lighter values, I move back. You'll also see me going over the dark areas, holding the pencil back here, and that's because I want to push that graphite around and I want to smooth things out without darkening the value. So if you go over a dark value area like this, you're not going to increase that value. All you're doing is pushing that graphite around to try to make things smoother so you have a smooth transition. You shouldn't see any blocks of lines, right? It should be really, really smooth from top to bottom. In this video, I am going a little slower than I usually do because, and not doing as well as I normally would do, simply because I'm trying to film it, show different hand grips, and I'm explaining this as I go through the video so I can keep on pace. Normally, if I just sit down and do this without any distractions and I'm not trying to show any type of technique, I'm just doing it, this would take me anywhere from 55 minutes on the quick side to well over an hour. The more time I put into it, the better it's going to be. The more you rush through it or speed through it, the worse it's going to be. There's no cheating on this. So if you're doing this and you're just doing it to learn a skill set, you're in the classroom and you have to do the assignment, take the time, put the effort in, learn the techniques. If you like drawing and drawing is your thing and you want to get better at it, then you really need to invest time into this, really need to put effort into this, because this is the best way to build a skill set without any stress. Because all you're doing is trying to create gradients. All you're doing is working on your hand grips and you're working on your technique. So there's really no stress. You're not trying to draw something, you're not trying to render something to look like a tree or a portrait or anything like that. So these are really good fundamentals to learn, and doing it one time isn't really going to help you. This is something that you need to practice. So this is just forcing you to practice in an organized fashion with purpose. Other times what we call it is warm-ups. So before you do a big drawing, you start warming up your hands, so you're doing some of these little techniques on a separate piece of paper. After we do this last one, we're going to be switching to the forms, which is the cylinder and the sphere, and then we're going to be looking at combining the pencils. So let's play out just a little bit longer, and then we'll start talking again about the cylinder. One thing to note, you're seeing me rotate the paper quite a bit. Our hands only move like this. We can't do anything else with it. So if we can't move our hand in any other curves or angles, rotate the paper, right? Rotating the paper just to match the natural movement of your hand. Don't force your hand into a weird drawing position because it's just not going to work. Just rotate the paper. Okay, so what we're doing is starting off with a lighter value and a lighter pencil. So we're using that 2H. And what we're doing is we're mapping out our values. So where is our foreshadow, our darkest value? Where are our highlights, our lightest values? And then where are our midtones? And once you have your map set out, then you can start building up your values with the softer pencils. Now we're working on a HB pencil. Two things. One, building, again, makes things smoother. Two, building up your values helps prevent mistakes. And we're looking for this to be a really nice, smooth, and clean transition. Now, unfortunately, when you start getting down into the really light values of the 2H and 4H, the camera simply won't pick it up. Neither will the overhead projector onto the TV, photocopies, scanners. All of those, you lose the lighter values. So the only way to really see the really, really light values you can make with the 4H and the 2H pencil, you need to have it in your hand. You need to be holding it and looking at it. Photocopy is probably the worst. Having the overhead cam going into the TV is probably the second worst, and then scanning it is probably the best that you're going to get for digital representation. Now with the sphere, again, mapping out your values, start with your core shadow. And one thing to keep in mind is you're not just shading in one direction. So I'm not shading just left to right in a curved fashion. I'm also not just shading from top to bottom like this. You're shading from all directions. So constantly moving the paper around to adjust the angles of the strokes. And all those strokes need to work into that highlight. I do have another video that is strictly on how to render a sphere. And we go over sphere notes, how light interacts with spheres. So that explains it a little bit better. In this one, again, we're just trying to work on our shading technique. We're trying to work on control. And we're building up our values. So when we do this, you're given about 55 minutes of class time to work on it. And then if you need more time, you'll have more time the next day to work on it. Again, if somebody just tries to do it for like, here, I did 10 minutes, done, give me my points, usually those make it in the trash can. I don't reward people for just trying to get stuff done and turn it in and don't care about how crappy it looks. So again, if you put the time and effort into it, you'll get the grade. You won't have to repeat it. If you try to cheat the system, you try to cheat the assignment, you're going to end up spending more and more time on it because I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. And so now I'm just going over it and refining and cleaning up some of the stuff. Again, the camera is not picking up the light values of that 4H pencil, especially on the cylinder. So as you're working on this, you'll see what I mean about how light you can get with that 4H. Again, this is something that requires time, effort, and practice. That's the only way to get better at shading. Shading isn't necessarily a talent or ability, it is a skill set that can be learned. So if you're in the class and you just want to learn, do the assignments, work the technique. If you like art and drawing as your jam and you want to get better, then you should really focus on doing the fundamentals and getting better at that, because that'll help you overall. So this is the end of the video. I hope you got something out of it. And until next time, this is your art teacher, Mr. Aguilar.